Hey everybody, it's Vanessa, the Crafty Gemini. Welcome to episode number 195 of WIP Wednesday. Today we're doing something a little different. I've done these kind of sporadically throughout the year. We are going to be unboxing and trying out a brand new product that I just got in. Apologies, I'm setting up my iPad here for my chat. I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, I'm ready. We can go live. And then I'm like, wait, where am I going to see the comments? So let me just get this set up for myself so I can make sure to see y'all. If you can see me and hear me though, go ahead and drop us a little comment in the chat box so we can make sure that everything is working technology-wise on our end. All right, let's see. Let me get this chat to pop up for me. Okay. Are you using Restream or are we just straight YouTube? Okay. Perfect. Give me 1 second. I think I saw some thumbs up on the computer screen, so I'm thinking some of y'all can see us and hear me at least. Here and then. All right, let's see if that does it. Okay, great. Yay. Hi, friends. Hi, Janice tuning in from Central New York. We got Jackie, another one from New York tuning in. Sheila from Massachusetts is in the house. Hi, Barb. Thanks for tuning in. Hi, Margie. Awesome. Hi, Tracy. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, good. She says, hi from Illinois. Thank you for this video. I'm starting to do sublimation, and this is the perfect time for this video. Good. And I actually thought I would kind of cover some of the different items that I use. I did go ahead, if those of you that found the link for this live chat, if you got this from my email newsletter, I included some links down there. They're like to my Amazon storefront. Those are affiliate links. And I basically put in all my favorite sublimation supplies that I have personally purchased from those vendors off of Amazon. So if you're using the same link that I did, I know that it's going to work. If you're getting the exact same thing that I did, that's what I linked to there. So if you're looking for some of the items as I grab them and use them, definitely go ahead and check those links in the email newsletter. But I also included it in the video description for y'all if you're watching this here on YouTube. It should also be in the caption if you're catching us on Facebook, okay? There's a lot of links and a lot of info there. Just make sure that you're reading which one is which before you think you're going somewhere and you're not, because I put in a bunch. But they're all there. Okay, great. Thanks, Tracy. I'm glad that you can see me and hear me. So we are going to do, hi, Susie. Thanks for tuning in from Michigan, friend. All right, great. So let's go ahead and give everybody the over-the-shoulder camera shot, and I will move my iPad. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to move it out because I have to grab that box anyways. Okay, I'm going to scoot this over here so that I can still see my chat. Okay, so here's what we're going to be doing. We are going to sublimate a tumbler, or so I think we are, because I have never used this machine before that we're going to use. This is kind of the upgraded version from the one that I have by HTVront, which I have done a tutorial in the past on my YouTube channel. So if you want to go back and check that one out after today's live show, just do a quick YouTube search, type in Crafty Gemini sublimation tumbler, and whatever videos I've done will pop up. I think I have one long form tutorial and then a couple, maybe 1 or 2 shorts videos where you can see. We have done, I would say, at least 5 dozen tumblers in classes where we teach kids after school or during summer camps, as well as doing the same type of sublimation tumbler craft with senior citizens. So kids and seniors, I have taught them to do this. I'm hoping that this upgraded machine will be just as easy to use as the previous one that I have. It usually takes a little while because sometimes we're making 20 tumblers in a class and I can only put 1 in the auto tumbler heat press. So I'm just going to show you the original one. This is the one that we take to the classes that I have been using for, I don't even know, definitely over a year, okay? This is what this one looks like. We've done mugs in here. I think we did that on a WIP Wednesday live show once, a mug or the skinny tumblers. Now, this is a skinny tumbler that I did with my Crafty Gemini logo on it. This one is a water bottle. Don't mind all the dents. This thing falls all the time. You know, we were coaching kids sports, and so I would always take my tumblers with me, but they hold up really, really good. This one, I was going to say, has the straw that pops up like this, but it also has a handle. So I take this one with me pretty much everywhere. It fits perfectly in the car cup holder, and then I like that it has a little handle that I can tote it with, in hand without having to put it in a bigger tote bag or something like that. The one that we're going to be making today is a slightly different tumbler. Ooh, this one is just the one that has that slide drinking spot here. It comes with a straw as well that you can insert there, but it doesn't have the handle. So I did go ahead, because I've purchased off all of these off of different Amazon vendors. I went ahead and included my links to the ones that I have specifically purchased, okay? They're not all created equal. You got to make sure that you're getting, a quality vendor for where you're getting your tumblers from. So if you want the one with the handle, it's included there too. You can check out, I have an album in my Amazon storefront that says, I think, Sublimation Fun. And so all of the products are going to be listed in there. So if you're looking for the slider one with the straw, that one's there. And then this one with the built-in straw and the handle is also there. These are called 20-ounce skinny tumblers, okay? So that's what we're going to be working with today. Now, that's the tumbler we're going to be making, okay? This is the previous heat press, and if you kind of look here, this orange kind of stuff you see here, it's like rubbery foam, and this feels like some type of like a, it's almost like a plastic type of fabric coating. I'm not sure exactly what it is. And so I know from watching some of the videos that some other creators did on the new auto tumbler heat press that we're gonna unbox here today, they say that the inside of that one is just all metal. So it's not gonna have the same thing as this. So it's something different. We're gonna try it out and see how it compares. I'll be able to kind of share my experience since, like I said, I've used that one to make at least, I don't know, 5 or 6 dozen tumblers, okay, over the past year or so. So this is the design that I printed from Creative Fabrica. I did go ahead and include my affiliate link to the design, to where I get the tumbler designs from. But I wanted to show you this because it's important to note, if you're going to do sublimation crafts, okay, and this, I explain this to all the kids and the seniors when I teach these classes, because a lot of times people see paper, they see ink color, and they think, oh, I have an inkjet printer. I can do that at home and then stick it on. It's not going to work, okay? You need to have sublimation everything. In other words, this is a sublimation specific tumbler, okay? Don't assume that every blank tumbler you see out there is coated, okay, and basically sublimation ready. So make sure that whoever you're purchasing from, obviously if you're using the links that I included to the Amazon vendors that I purchased from, you'll see that they are sublimation blank tumblers, okay? So those, will work. Then you need sublimation paper. That's right, it's not regular printer paper, okay? This I printed out on HTVrant's sublimation paper. This is the 8.5 by 11 sheet. Depending on the sublimation printer that you're using, you will need obviously paper that fits that the size that the printer will print. The more expensive the sublimation printer, usually the more range you have in terms of what size paper dimensions you can do. When I first started doing sublimation, I basically converted an inkjet printer into a sublimation printer. It was a cheap kind of way to get in. But when the printer little chip card things don't keep reading the ink that you're trying to put in, it's like a whole big thing. I did I think a TikTok video, and I have some YouTube shorts on it or something. It's quite an involved process, but it did get me started in sublimation. And then once I started doing the classes, then I decided, okay, we should probably buy a sublimation printer to make things a lot easier for myself. And I will say, and I have it here, I ended up buying earlier this year the Epson SureColor F170. It is a sublimation printer, so I didn't have to like rig this one up in order to make it sublimate or print, on sublimation paper with the sublimation ink. It's made for that. So it's really just plug and play. This one connects to my laptop or to my desktop via Wi-Fi. And I will say the inks that came in here, okay, you have the black and then you have the CMY colors. We have printed out, I would say hundreds, right, Brandon? Like hundreds and hundreds of designs for the mugs, for the sublimation tumblers, the kids, the classes that we've done, these kids have sublimated on everything from keychains, zippered pouches, tote bags. We've done all types of sublimation projects, and we have printed out literally hundreds. I would say somewhere between maybe 300 and 400 different designs. And look at the ink. It looks lower because I'm tilting it back and it's liquid in there, but it's like 3/4 full on all of them. And I haven't refilled it yet. So all the videos that I had watched of people talking about sublimation printers, I was like, okay, yeah, it's legit. Y'all are right. It barely uses ink. You get really vibrant colors. And so I just wanted to say that. Super happy with it. It's a little bit pricey, but it's kind of an investment too, depending on what you plan to do with your sublimation crafts. If you plan to sell stuff, I think it would probably be worth it because you can do so many different types of crafts with it, right? Because you can sublimate on rigid items like this. You can also sublimate on textiles like t-shirts and zippered pouches and canvas tote bags and all that kind of stuff, as long as it has a polyester coating that the sublimation ink can stick to with the heat, okay, that it can basically get like infused to. All right. Yeah, Winless Original says I used the first one on Alive. That's right, on the first auto heat press. So I just wanted to share that with y'all so you see that I do have this printer. This is what I used to print out the design that we are going to try and sublimate today with this new HTVront A200. So here's the design. Very important. You need to set this to print out, right, from your computer. The sublimation image needs to come out in mirror imaged. And so one of the things I liked about the Epson, the SureColor F170 printer that I got, is that when you install it and all that, it automatically goes to mirror image. Whereas in the other one that I had made into a sublimation printer, I always had to stop and either save the file when I downloaded it or created the artwork. You know, sometimes I do like custom designs for the tumblers. I would have to make sure that I either saved the file from Canva or whatever program I was using in mirror image, or before I sent it to the printer, I would have to mirror it. Otherwise, especially if it has text or it has like a character on it or like a team logo or something, if it goes the other way, obviously it's going to be reversed. So you want to make sure that you mirror image your image, okay, when it comes out. Now, another thing to note is that the ink colors and the colors of your design are going to look way more muted on the sublimation printer when it comes out than it is going to look once you apply the heat and put it on your project. So this is something that we always have to tell the kids, because I put out a ton of different designs. They go to pick one and they're kind of looking for something that's maybe a little bit brighter. So I usually bring samples so that they see, hey, it looks like this on paper, but after it's actually sublimated onto the project, whatever blank we use, you see how much more vibrant the colors are so that you're not too surprised. So I'm actually really curious to see how bright or dark these yellows and oranges and reds are going to turn out in the sublimation on the tumbler, okay? Let's see. Make sure I'm not missing nothing. Hi, everybody. Okay, good. So here's a tip. If you are new to sublimation, and this is what I often do when I teach these classes to beginners, try to get a design or design a design yourself, right? That is blank on this side and blank on this side. And I'll tell you why. On this one, you can see it because I sublimated this one just with my logo on it. The logo is just one big thing. Around the back, there's nothing. And so what this is going to do is basically allow you to, you know, dip your toes into sublimation without wrecking every tumbler that you are experimenting and learning with, okay? What do I mean by that? Well, if you have a design that's like full color and it's a full wraparound design where the paper comes around, let me do it on this one without the handle just so y'all can see. When the design comes around and this paper wraps around, we are going to trim this and I'll show you how I do that in a minute. But where the trimmed edges match up here, it needs to match up perfectly. Like, by perfectly, I mean spot on perfectly. Otherwise, the join there, if there's a little air pocket, if there's a gap, if you have too much of the design, if it goes edge to edge, if you have too much of the design overlapping, you can get kind of like this, almost like a ghosting line, like doubled up. And if it's like, say you have a gridded background, if those grid lines don't match up perfectly, I mean, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. And you're probably not going to be happy with it. So if you start off with designs that are empty here and empty here, that means I can get these to wrap around without worrying that the two cut edges match up in the design and the image. Because if this is not going to be floating by itself, we have to tape it. And where we tape it is where it's going to stay. So let's get started. Robert is asking, can it be anything to put on it? I'm not sure what that means. If you're asking, can you put anything on it? Anything that you can print out, okay? Oh, no, everything has to, whatever you're putting this on has to have some type of polyester coating so that it can transfer over to it. But remember that we're using a sublimation blank, something that has that coating. We have to use sublimation paper, sublimation ink, in a sublimation printer. So everything has to be specifically made for sublimation in order for this little combo here to actually work when we apply the heat, okay? All right. Yes. So Tracy's telling somebody here that the it infuses the ink into the object. It won't come off like vinyl. So like you can see here, and this is something that I tell the kids whenever we do it, it's not like applying vinyl. Because you know the vinyl, you could still feel it. Like if you do a vinyl press on your shirt, you can kind of feel where the vinyl is on top of the fabric, right? This is infused into it. So there is no raised edges here. There's nothing. It's just fully infused into it. All right. So I printed out too because you never know. We on live TV here and I might mess this up, especially since I've never used this machine before. So let's trim up the design first and then we're gonna move on to this box. That way when I get it all set up and plugged up while it's warming up, we can tape this thing to the tumbler. Okay, so when you get the tumbler, they come in a box like this. I recommend taking the lid off, taking this out, and then I guess this one doesn't have it. Let me see. It depends on where you're getting it from. Some of them have, let me see. Oh, I think this one was maybe already got taken out. Like that, it comes wrapped in a baggie. Okay, yeah, these are just like this. Okay, fine. Some of them sometimes, depending, you make sure that you read the description, come with like a little rubber thing underneath like this that you can put on, okay? Either way, works fine. Here we go. So we got to take off the lid for sure. I'll leave that one there. That's my backup tumbler in case I screw this up. This that comes inside of it is usually what you use, like how people were doing it before they came out with these auto heat presses. As you see, the other one that I showed you too has this kind of cutout, and these are auto heat presses. So once I get the design taped on there, I would usually wrap it in some butcher paper to protect the inside of here from getting any of that ink to transfer it over to it while it closes. But this closes automatically over top of the tumbler to kind of apply that heat all the way around, okay? But some people have, they're not automatic tumbler heat presses, they're like an oven. So you would, if that was the case and you didn't have one of these auto heat presses, you would wrap the design around, put it in this sleeve, okay? Excuse me. And then people take a heat gun and shrink it because this is like a shrink wrap. And that way this shrinks around the tumbler with the design and it's basically what's holding it super tight to take the place of these auto heat presses that are wrapping around and really cinching in, because you have to have pressure on that sublimation design in order for that ink to really infuse into whatever the project is, okay? For us, because we have auto heat presses here that we're using, these HTVront ones, I don't need this. So I really just throw that away, or you can set it aside maybe if you have something else different, you know? Hi, Laura. She says, how often do you have to replace the ink in the printer? I don't yet know because mine is still 3/4 full and I have been using it all year. So I think it's safe to say that you can go a good long while, even if you're doing this for business, because we do it for a lot of classes. This summer we were teaching classes 4 or 5 days a week, and a lot of them were sublimation projects. I'm telling you, I've printed over between 300 and 400 different designs, and they're at 3/4 full still. So I can't speak to when I need to replace the ink, but I know once it gets lower. But it has like these little hash marks so you can kind of track it. The black is like, excuse me, the black is like at 5/8 full, and then the color ones are 3/4 full. So the black is also kind of like a double-sized one. It comes like an XL thing. But the other ones are almost to the top. And of course, all the ones I've been printing have been tons and tons of color. So we'll see. Okay, so when you get the tumbler, depending on where you got the tumbler from, usually, at least all the ones that I have ordered, I found that they're about the same size on these 20-ounce skinny tumblers. I like to go like this and just get an idea. Where is this? Where is that? Like, where is it at? Okay. And then I just start taking off little by little off the sides. From the top, you can see that this 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper is about 1/2 inch sticking out at the top. Okay. So I'm going to shave off 1/4 from this side and 1/4 from this side and see where we are. And I'm eyeballing the 1/4, but you can measure better than me. I'm not too picky with how I trim this one up too much, as long as I don't get too close to the design, because remember, I still have a good chunk of blank there and blank here. So in terms of the length, I definitely have some wiggle room. You have the same thing top and bottom, because if you look at the tumbler, The top is kind of flat and even, so that paper can come all the way to the top. But at the bottom, because it's rounded, okay, and this is something that you kind of discover over time, I don't necessarily want the paper to go right to the edge, okay? The reason is this is a clean stop. Here, it's rounded as it curves under to the bottom. So if I stop somewhere here, or if I go beyond the curve wanting to take that design all the way around the edge, I find that taking that stiff paper, trying to wrap it around the curve, you can get, not on this design, but on one that's like full color edge to edge, you can get like little ghosting kind of lighter spots where the paper wrinkles as it's trying to wrap around the edge. So I prefer to stop a little shy from the bottom so that I can flatten the paper, tape it all the way around, and then basically all you see is kind of like the white base, but because it's a clean and crisp straight line across, it looks really nice, okay? So I try to avoid wrapping that paper under, if that makes sense. And I'll show you as we start to kind of wrap it and trim it. Your first one, you're probably going to be like, look at me, guys. I have my rotary cutter with the paper cutting blade. Okay, so I just label one like that for paper. Not that I always use it. I have been known to use my fabric ones, and I really do not care. I know some people are really picky about that. I change those blades so often, it don't matter to me. All right, so we cut it a quarter off the top. Should I go to 8? Let me see. Okay, so I took a quarter off. You can see I still have a little quarter there left. So I'm going to do that. Where did I take that quarter off of the top? Ooh, I don't even know. I think I took it off the bottom. I did. I took it off the bottom. I'm glad. I'm on my iPad here because there's a little bit of a delay. When I looked over, it was showing me just finishing that. So that worked out perfectly. It's like me going back in time. Great. So I cut a quarter off of there, and I'm going to cut a little bit off the top. This one has a kind of a splatter design right here, so I don't want to get to where I'm cutting that, since that is part of my image. But I'm cutting this guy to 8. Make sure you're cutting this straight, though. People that are usually doing sublimation crafts, they don't necessarily have rotary cutters. Like, they're not quilters necessarily. They could be, but not all of them are. So I've noticed that a lot of crafters just have like paper trimmers, and that's what they use to cut this. My paper trimmers will drag a cardstock, and it will not be a cute cut. So, you know, I'm going to go to my rotary cutter every time because I just feel more confident that I can make a clean cut with that. Okay. So now, and always do this flat. Don't try to measure this up in the air because this is going to be sweeping on you and moving. You're going to be like, yeah, I think it's there. Set it flat, hopefully on something level. Okay? And then, second tip here. Once you've trimmed the height, place it down flat, but always make sure that your design is reading, right? Like how we talk about fabric and working with directional fabrics, that we want it to be reading correctly from top to bottom. In this case, these are pumpkins. If it was an abstract splatter design, I could put it whichever way I wanted it to present on the finished tumbler. But because these are pumpkins and we know they're supposed to look like this, I want to make sure that it's reading top to bottom as I'm looking at the top of the tumbler, right? Sometimes people start going like this so that they can set it down and then wrap around, and they don't realize. Ask me how I know. I haven't done that, but some of my students have. Where they go like this, they do it, they bring it to the tumbler, to the heat press, we take it out, and it's like, oh my gosh, you put the whole thing upside down. So I'm telling y'all, don't do it. Pay attention. If you're gonna be working and taping it upside down, do the same to your image, okay? The top is where it's open. Make sense? Great. All right. Here we go. So I'm setting it on the table flat. My paper's flat on the table, and I'm coming around it like this. I actually like where it's hitting, but I don't like where it's hitting on the bottom because, look, this is what I was talking about. Let me see if I can give y'all a close-up. Okay, this is flat here. Here, can you see how I can wrap that paper around the edge? You see how it's sticking out a little? I don't want that because that's what I'm talking about. As I tape this down, you're going to have wrinkled bits, okay, of tape going there. So what I'm going to do is take 1/8 of an inch off of here so that it finishes a little bit higher, like that. Make sense? Hopefully it does. And if you've done sublimation tumblers, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, that's a great tip. I should have done that. If you know what I'm talking about. of that crinkling at the bottom. On this design, not so much, right? Because this is a really good beginner design. So again, I linked to the file on where you can get it in the description box below, in case you do want to start, because trust me, them tumblers are not cheap. That ink is not cheap. Them printers are not cheap. And you thinking, I'm going to do this, sublimation, let's do it. I'm going to crank these out. And when you start messing 1 and 2 and 3, you're going to be like, I am out all this money. We're going to have to stick these wrecked tumblers in the pantry like I've had to do. I've done some for my volleyball team, and I don't know what I was thinking, y'all, but I spelled one girl's name wrong. And I sure did hand it to her, and she's looking like, Coach Vanessa, you swapped 2 letters in my name. And I was like, no, me? I'm so precise. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, my husband drinks out of that one now, even though that's not his name. Because, you know, I'm not going to throw it away now. We definitely, oh, let me not cut that much. That's a little more than 1/8. Right there. And what I'm doing is just going to cut a little sliver, because remember, I just want that bottom to come up a little higher on the bottom of the tumbler. But I'm checking on all the other lines too, because I don't want to cut it a little bit slanted. Get into good practice even if you are using a beginner design like this, because if you start cutting slanted and you're trying to match up an edge-to-edge design, ooh, good luck. It's going to be a mess, because they won't match up, right? If one is like slighter than the other, like narrower than the other, when you try to wrap them around to tape them, they don't meet up, and then it's a mess. It is? Okay. Oh, yeah, because I had focused it there. Sorry, y'all. I'll keep it like that. But how cute is that design? This is going to be my tumbler, if it comes out good. Okay. So now, let's give it another go. Pumpkins up, open top up. So, if I level it to the bottom, it's showing me a little bit low here. Okay? Don't freak out. Flip it. And then I want it leveled to the top, which is now the bottom. So then when it comes around here, and I'm just going to hold this in place. We still got to do some more trimming. You can see that now this is flush here. Okay? And look where it's falling here. Can you see that? Where I see the rounded portion is exposed. And so that way there's no wrapping of this around the rounded portion. I can put my tape there, and that paper is going to be nice and flush against the bottom. So that's just my tips. You ain't got to follow them. You can do whatever you want. I'm just telling you from all the ones that we have done, that's a suggestion to give you a cleaner result without that much added effort. Okay, so that's that. Now, let's go ahead and trim up lengthwise. I don't want to overlap, right? We don't want to keep the 11-inch that this printed on, because this was 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Because if I keep all this excess and I bring this over, what happens is a chunk of the design from here is actually over top of paper instead of being on top of the tumbler. So it's not going to transfer over. It might transfer a little bit, but it's not going to be as bright as straight ink to the tumbler. Make sense? So I'm going to trim, and for the length, I trim off one side first. Because I don't care if this one is long. If I can trim this one and then make whatever I trimmed match up with this end, then I'm going to be good. But because this design is kind of like a little bit longer, we usually want to cut like a little bit from here and some from here, okay? And yes, you see me going, cutting, measuring, cutting, measuring. What I recommend is if you have a whole batch of tumblers, maybe you've bought a dozen, or you've bought 6, or you've bought 2 dozen, and you're going to make a bunch of gifts. Take the time to do this that I'm showing you here of cutting with the first one. Then before we tape it to it, measure it, okay? Especially if you're going to be doing multiples of the exact same design. Measure it, take your notes of what you trimmed so that then you can more easily repeat it on the other designs and not have to like manually be, you know, figuring out and measuring and trimming and all of that, okay? So I'm going to cut off, I have about the same from here. The design is pretty centered. So let's just cut off a good bit from here. I'm going to go to 10.25 on that edge. Okay. Let's measure again. And when I say take notes, that's what I'll do. I'll say like from the left edge, 10.25, you know, whatever it is that I'm doing as I'm doing it. Oh, let's flip it so that I can get this to slide down. Still have a lot of overlap. So I can really stand to cut off another, let me see. I'll cut off another 1/2 inch from this side. This design is really going to span the whole way. And another tip, when you're cutting or printing out these designs, say you know you want to make a dozen of these, right? You're giving them as gifts, whatever. Don't print out 12 right off the bat. Print out one. Test it against the tumbler, because sometimes we see the design on the computer screen and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be perfect. And then you get it and you're like, oh my gosh, it's taking up too much, or it's not taking up enough of the tumbler. And so then you can tweak the dimensions of the design itself before you give it the A-OK thumbs up and then print out a dozen, right? You don't want to print out a bunch that you're not actually going to use and waste that pricey, you know, ink, okay? So I'm going to flip it. So this is a craft where you got to really like test and see and test and see. So I'm going to, I could really get away with there because I can see, but I am going to trim off just a hair off this side. Actually, I'm going to trim it from this side. So you got to have this really precise. Some people use like a fabric measuring tape, you know, to kind of wrap around it and measure. I'm better. I don't know why with the with the quilting rulers. I wonder why. Because visually, when I wrap it, I can see what I'm doing, what I'm working with, and gauge. Like, okay, I can stand to do this and that. Okay, so that's not bad. So I have about a 3/8 of an inch overlap there, but where the paper overlaps, I don't have ink or design on that 3/8 inch overlap, okay? So it doesn't really matter that it's overlapping. So now, hopefully that tells you why I would recommend getting a design that has blank space on either side of the end where it's going to connect, because now my design is going to be fine and I can overlap this since it's not affecting the ink or the design. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because if you try one and then it happens to you what I said, you're going to remember me. Okay, so now, here's how I do it. I really shouldn't have been touching all around the tumbler. You don't really want to have grease and oil stains from your fingertips and stuff on here. I do like to go in with a lint roller and take everything off. Any little specks of cotton or, you know, just a thread if you're working in your sewing studio like I am. You know what happens. It literally will get caught in there, and sometimes you'll see like a little speck of blue just from like the gas of the ink. Using it as like a little, almost like a little template, and then it just gets, you have like a little squiggle of where lint was on the white of the design. So be careful with that. So I have people put their hands inside of it so that we're not touching the outside. Okay, great. The bottom, fine. The top of the tumbler is at the bottom, so I want to make sure to put my design so that the top is at the bottom as well. We're going to do this. I'm going to wrap it around. And I'm doing it down, remember, top down, so that I have that little open space and my paper doesn't crinkle around the bottom curve, instead of doing it like this. Because if you do it like this, the paper's going to slide down and now you have a white rim that's exposed at the top. I don't want that. I want that little bit exposed at the bottom. So double check, my pumpkins are upside down, we're good. So now, I usually do this by hand, but of course when I teach a class and it's like some kid's random first time doing it, we sometimes use these guys. And I have this linked again in my Sublimation Fun album in my Amazon storefront. Everything is in the caption and the description box below. This includes, it's like a sublimation tool, like a pincher to grab that paper around the tumbler, because you cannot have any air pockets in here. What does that mean? If I were to go like this and just start putting tape, and I have these pockets of bubbly space where the paper is not exactly cinched up against that sublimation tumbler, you're going to have a mess on your hands, okay? This sublimation ink, basically when you heat it, turns into a gas, and if it's not up against the material, whether it's fabric or a rigid a material like this tumbler, it's not going to stick to it. Instead, you get what's called ghosting, and it's like a fuzzy overall, kind of like the ink was heated and it kind of was trapped in this general area, but not like bam up against the hard surface of the tumbler, okay? So be super careful. So if you have grippy hands, you can go like this and really, really hold, okay? And put a tape. This is what I do. Whatever paper side is on top, I will put a piece of tape on this side and pull against it this way so that I can really get that paper nice and snug on the sublimation tumbler. But these tools, you can go like this and push up onto it. So it's kind of like another hand, okay? And so it's squeezing that paper there so that you can set it like this. Then you're gonna grab your heat safe tape. Every time I pull this out, y'all ask me where I got it. It is from an Amazon store. I went ahead and linked it in the description box below so you can grab this dispenser. It has a blade under here. So when you install the roll of tape, as you rotate this away from you, the pieces come out already pre-cut. Okay, you basically just insert your finger in these little gaps and pull the tape up so it's already pre-cut for you, which is good, right? Because these type of projects, if you don't have this type of little tool, you need more than two hands basically, because you got to be holding tight with one and then grabbing tape and cutting tape with another. So here we go. You do have to use heat safe tape. The tumbler press, when I set it up, is going to be super, super hot, okay? So we need to make sure that the tape is not going to melt and that you're not going to get a bunch of adhesive everywhere. So this tape is specifically for this. So I tend to be a little bit extra. So I stick it to the side that's on top, and then I'm pulling. Maybe I shouldn't pull that much. But oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Tape, stay down. And then you pull, 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 and stick it to the other side so that it is wrapping it and sticking it there as snug as possible. Same thing. I stick it down, pull, pull, pull. Oop. I'm trying to hold it with the other finger so I can really cinch it up. Because like I said, this one's going to be for me. I can't mess it up. Okay, so I have this in the middle, the little pincher tool. I'm going to keep turning this away from me so I can grab. We're going to do the same thing here. Tape. Come on, I want to give it a little bit of a pull. Tape. Oh well, that one's there. And you can really put as much tape as you want or as little as you want. The stuff, you know, if you're doing this for a business, you need to come up with a system of how you can do it without wasting all your materials, because you know those are all costs that you need to add in there. And then I can remove this, and I'm just going to put a piece of tape. This is a double piece of tape here, but right where that thing was. Okay, before, when I first started, I watched videos and people were like putting tape here and all around and all around. I don't really think that's necessary, especially for this design, right? Because the design is not edge to edge. If it was full color background, you would need to go in with tape around here. I only have like one speck right there from that little splatter that it had. I may go around the top just so I can show you how to do it. And then you can also tape around the bottom, okay? For wrapping around the top or the bottom, what I like to do is to actually use the skinnier tape. So this tape dispenser also has a spot here for narrower tape, and it has a little blade that you can kind of put up or down. So if I leave it up, I'll get rid of this chunk. I go like this, cut me a nice long piece, and then with this down, I'm going to start here, and I'm splitting it. Tape is half on paper, half on the bottom of the tumbler, and I'm pulling as I go. Pull, 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 and stick. And then the only thing that's getting crinkled on the bottom is the tape, so not the design, okay, based on how I showed you how to cut it. Let's do the same thing to the top, and then let's get this tumbler thing out this box, because I'm not even sure how long it's going to take to warm up, but it shouldn't be that long. All my HTVront press machines, whether it's the heat presses or the tumbler heat presses and stuff, they all heat up super quick, which is surprisingly good. So I wrapped it around half and half, right, around the top, and then whatever's sticking out of the tape, I just kind of curve it like that and just tape it to the inside. And that is good to go for me. I think it's going to turn out cute. I always do a quick glance, make sure I see my pumpkins are facing up and this is the top. Otherwise, you'd have to take off all that tape and get to work putting it the correct way. All right, let's get this out of here. So Crafty 1013 is asking, can you do, and I can't even remember how I put this thing in here, but anywho, can you do a tumbler that is narrow at the bottom than it is at the top? In other words, not totally straight up and down. So those are called tapered tumblers, and I don't have one of those. I've never bought one of those because I do see in the designs where I go to get the designs, the files are usually given in two formats. It'll say straight side for the 20-ounce skinny tumbler, and then it'll say like 20-ounce tapered. And I don't know, I have never tried those tumblers. So if I can get my hands on one, then I would, but I don't have any of those and I've never used them. All right. Susan says, if the paper is a little short of the circumference, is that okay? It would be okay if the design is such a design that the gap that you're going to have there is not going to affect the design, right? As long as it's not an edge-to-edge design, then you should be fine. Okay? Yes, the printed side, the ink has to be face down onto the sublimation blank, because this is where the ink is at. That needs to transfer over to the design, which is another reason why you have to make sure you print your image mirror image, because it's going on. Okay, so you're flipping it. It has to be mirror image printed so that when we reverse it this way, it comes out correctly, especially if there's text. Okay, very important. All right, y'all. Let's get to the good part. All that work. Let's hope I can do this right. So this is the brand new HTVront A200 auto tumbler heat press. I have not even opened this box yet. It came in a big box. I opened the box and took this box out. That's it. So we are seeing this together for the first time. So I think this is the side, or this is the one that has, yeah, there's Alzuma. That's as much as I can do. That's why I cranked up the camera, yeah. Just because it's so big. Okay. Telling you what comes in here, the auto heat press. It comes with 2 tumbler mats, okay? And we're gonna see them in a minute. They're these black things here. One is 2 millimeter thick, the other one is 4 millimeter thick. Heat resistant gloves, very, very important anytime you're doing any of these auto heat presses. These things are gonna be basically baking in here at like 390 degrees, 370, 380, you know, depending on the paper and the ink or whatever. You have to be able to grab these with some heat resistant gloves. Don't try to wing it, trust me. They take a long time even to cool down after they're done. It comes with a roll of the heat resistant tape, helpful, okay, for those that are just starting off. You get to do everything and then you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have any tape. So if you get this, you'll have the beginner stuff that you need. Then this is the user guide. All that stuff comes in here. Let's get this thing out of here. Here's the tape. Heat resistant glove. Ooh, these are thicker than the ones I got. Okay, I likes. Yeah, these are thicker, dude. Can you, actually, let me grab this out of here just because I want you, I think visually you'll still be able to tell. They look the same, but these are way thinner. Look. Can y'all tell the quality? Like, look how flimsy these are. It's a little bit thinner, and these are, ooh, nice. And you see how they're more rigid? Oh, I like this. I'm gonna start using these. All right, 4 millimeter, it says it on there, 2 millimeters. So one is thicker than the other. Let's get this thing out of here. Hold on, I'm gonna put it on the floor and then just pick the thing up and put it on the table so we can get it out of here. Using my feet as tongs to hold the box down while I do this. It's cute. It's that same cutesy blue color, y'all. We have a heat press that's like this, the auto heat press one. A couple of them, actually. I love that color. Ooh, this is black, but with sparkles in it. Match my nails. A little bit of glitter there. All right, so let me stop before I yank that and do something I'm not supposed to. But maybe I'm supposed to because the cord is in here. So let's do this. So size-wise, a little bit bigger, not too much more, but it's definitely taller. And the thing with this one is that now, like on that little one, all we could do was those 20-ounce tumblers, at least for me in my classes. We were doing mugs and 20-ounce skinny tumblers, like the one we're gonna do today. But this one, you could do bigger tumblers, like 30-ounce and 40-ounce tumblers, like the Stanley style ones, but you need, okay, so here's how it works. This is an insert. This is a straight-sided insert, I'm pretty sure. I'm looking in there. Yep, straight-sided. So if it just goes straight through like that, that means it's for these type of tumblers that we're going to be working with because they fit right in there, right? Straight. If you wanted to do the big 40-ounce tumblers, you could either, this machine basically comes in two options, two iterations. You can get the A200 auto heat press straight-sided to do just straight-side tumblers, okay? Or you can get the A200 auto heat press with the insert that comes in here for the bigger ones, like the 30 and 40-ounce ones, like a Stanley cup, right? That the bottom is narrower, and then you have the big part that sticks out on top. Because I got the one that comes with the straight-sided insert already in there, they did also go ahead and send me the separate plate kit to be able to do these guys. So you can either choose the machine, like if you're only or mostly going to do this type of a tumbler, then just buy the machine with this insert already in it. They're both the same price, whether it's a straight-sided kit or you get the one that is for the kind of other shape one, okay? Or if you plan to do both, then you can get either machine and then just get the plate kit for this, you know, like how I got it here. Straight-sided in the machine and then a separate one for this. I think this comes with a tumbler inside. I obviously have not used it yet. I haven't even opened it. I'm trying to see if it says it on here. Maybe it doesn't. Let me see. I think it does. They always include like how they do yeah, it does. So we're not going to use this one today because I still got to play with it, and I'm not trying to run no experiments with only one of these tumblers on hand here in front of y'all. But I will say, you need to, the only way that you can do it on this type of a tumbler is by removing the handle. So I like that they have included this in here. I can't believe this. Look at how huge this is, that you could sublimate on this now. Well, I'm excited to try that one out. I got to come up with something cute, you know, like a whole crafty Gemini thing, so I can make that one for myself. But anyways, that's the insert that comes with this if you wanted to get that separately. Let me not mess this up. So yeah, so that's the one that was in there. I'll set that aside for now. I'm doing just a 20-ounce straight side one. So read instructions before use. Super easy. We're going to power it on. These buttons are the same. If you've gotten any of the other HTVront heat presses, the automatic ones, you know, like the flat big heat press 15 by 15 ones, the buttons are the same as this. Look at me. What am I going to turn on if it's not plugged in? Duh. Okay. Let me not unplug my camera, though. The cord is a little short for me, but it'll work. Okay, we're powering on. And the same thing, I can see it already, you know. You got the temperature, then you can adjust. I haven't experimented yet since this is new to me, so we are going to go with, let's see, I'm going to go up to 390. Let's go 370 because we ain't got time, okay, all day here waiting on this thing to heat up. We're about to find out, though. Then for the time, 60 seconds is definitely not enough. 140? 240? 140? Let's go for 2 minutes. I'm going to go here. Let's go 120 and see what we get. Now, here's something new. This is similar to one of the auto heat presses that we have from them that you can adjust the amount of pressure being applied. So that's what this is. I see 45 pounds here. And if I do a quick search, let me see if something can pop up here for me on the internets of how much I should put on there. I mean, it's metal. I don't think I can really damage it. But I do want the design to transfer completely over. That's the thing. That sometimes people will like wrap it in something else and then put butcher paper to kind of add additional layers so that when you do put it in the other one that closes, like the auto heat press, that you can apply enough pressure. What we have been doing is that we put the tumbler in. I think my daughter puts it for 70 seconds or so. Then we take it out and we rotate it another half turn and put it back in for another 70 seconds so that we can try to basically get enough of the pressure applied to the most important parts, like all of it, where the ink is at, okay? So I'm going to let this heat up for a second. Let me just see. And this is what y'all should be doing. If you get stuck at home too, I'm going to type in HTVront A200. Oops. RONT. A200 auto heat press. Time and temp for 20-ounce skinny tumbler. And we'll see what pops up. All right, $3.90 for 65 seconds. Let's try it. $3.90. What did the girl say? 65. And I'm going to share with you a tip too. We're going to set it for this just because, you know, the internet says so. We'll test it. But I have a way of telling if the ink or most of the ink has transferred fully over to the tumbler. And I'll share that with you too, so that you also don't go off instructions from the internet and end up wrecking your tumbler because you should have left it in longer. These are all things that we learn, y'all. This is all stuff that we learn. All right. Oh, Kathleen says she just bought the auto hat press. Awesome. I don't really do hats like that. So I haven't used that one yet, but I mean, all their stuff is, I have so much of their stuff and I'm telling you, beyond impressed. Okay. So as we can see, the temperature is coming up. Ooh, y'all, these are so thick. So one of the things about this is because you can do bigger tumblers, you can see that like this area in here is bigger. So you need to, if you're doing a shorter tumbler, you got to be able to basically put your hand in here. So that's probably why they bulked up the heat safe gloves, because it's not just going to be like out here on the end. On the other heat press, I can kind of like tap it on one side and pull it out, you know, obviously still using the gloves. But here, because you kind of have to insert your hands inside of the hot part here. Yeah. What is this? Oh, that's to release it. Let me stop touching stuff. Oh my gosh. Okay. One thing that this thing does say is that we have to use the heat press mat to wrap up the tumbler. Once it's preheated, then place the tumbler into the device for the transfer of the image. So here's what we're going to do. And I'm curious, maybe for the bigger ones, let's see. Please remove the tumbler and the heat press mat after ironing. Do not leave it inside the device. So the thicker one is obviously going to make it so you can apply more pressure. And hello, I went to look up the pressure and didn't even look up. Let's see. For glass, hot peel. And you know, HTVront has like their own settings also. Since I did use HTVront paper, sometimes I go there if I'm applying the sublimation design to like a different textile or something. I will go to their thing and see like what their paper says, so that you usually will get, excuse me, let me grab my water. You know, so you make sure that the ink transfers over good, you know, if it needs a certain, you know, more temperature, more time. How to heat press a handle tumbler. Oh no, they're saying $3.90 for 45 to 60 seconds for the bigger tumblers. So they should be good for this. And the pressure, here we go. 45. Oh no, that's just telling us the whole range. It has a huge range though. 45 to 155 pounds of pressure. I'm just going to leave it there and we'll see. Okay. Maria's asking, so they come with the instructions on the time and temp. You can find, and not in here, I don't think, but online, because there's so many different types of things that you can sublimate on. You really have to do, you know, search it on their website. They have like all the listings of all the stuff. I usually will, if you Google it, it usually like pops up a little chart or like the page on their website that has the information for whatever item you are sublimating. Okay. Wow. Already up to temp. Not bad for 390 degrees. Okay. I'm going to use this one. It looks like this is thicker. Anyways, we'll do thicker just so it applies more pressure. So I am going to, because the design is mostly here with the pumpkins, okay? And this edge here, we know doesn't have anything. Actually, I'm going to put another little piece of tape there. Remember how I said that, like, if you have any air pockets, it'll wreck your design? I'm not trying to play around with this because I'm a little traumatized, to be honest. I have wrecked many a tumbler. We use them here, but I've learned a lot. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this around like this. Let me get my gloves on so I don't burn my fingies in here. Ooh, wrong ones. Ooh, girl. You're about to burn yourself with them flimsy ones. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put this in here. Let's see if I'm going to turn it this way just because that cord is short, and so it's going longer this way. Plus, it's because I'm plugging it into an extension cord that's just hanging out here behind me. All right. So we're going to close it up here. insert. Oh my gosh, don't tell me I unplugged it. Yep, I did. Talking about getting the cord closer, and I unplugged the whole thing. Oh, Lord. Okay. It should be kind of hot. Does it have a memory like the others? It does. So that's one thing about the HTVront presses. Look at that. It literally just picked right up from the settings that we did, which is great. So if you unplug it, just kick it back on. It's at 374. We'll just wait a couple seconds for it to come back up to 390. And then when this button, the R button, is like your go button, when it stops blinking red and is actually green, then we're going to press it to go. All right, let's see. Oh, Diana says, I do the same thing with my feet on the box. It's the only way. You got to straddle it and squeeze with your legs and hold while you pull. All that, the vacuum that's created, you know, with the styrofoam and stuff. All right. Let's see. Oh, J Frog, it sounds like your internet, because I'm seeing it here on our Wi-Fi pretty smooth. So hopefully that gets fixed for you. Tracy says, the other thing with sublimation is a heat press, and there are different tapes for different objects, like blue for fabric and the color I'm using for keychains, cups, and rigid items. Yeah, and you know, because the other heat presses come with a yellowish tape, I tend to use that one on a lot of stuff, but I will say I have had that yellow color come off a little bit when I was sublimating on a white t-shirt for a longer time than I should have. So, yeah. The clear blue one is good too. Okay, but for rigid objects, like you said, keychains, you know, there's different medallions. There's all kinds of products that are just like cutesy blank things. You print out the design to the size or the shape. Like when we do 2-inch diameter keychains, we just print them out already in 2-inch circles. So I just cut them out big around, and the kids can just tape the actual keychain blank to the paper. So you don't have to match it perfectly or anything. You flip the keychain blank face down onto the image, and I make it so it's a little bit bigger so you know that the image is gonna go all the way to the outer edge of the keychain. Let me stop talking and press this thing. Okay, so I saw this thing close up. Let me see if I can peek in here on the side. Okay, it looks scrunched together, like zoop, closed and grabbed. And yeah, we're going to see what it's looking like in 60 seconds. I feel like that's super fast. Using this one, and like I said, when we teach a class and we go like 20 people making a tumbler, it takes quite a while because we can only do one at a time. And like I said, we take it out halfway through and we rotate it because we want as much heat in there and as much pressure around the entire design for it to transfer over nicely. I don't want like a darker spot and then a lighter, more faded area. So if this can save me all that time, if in 60 seconds going in once will work, that's huge. We're going to test it out. I left it at that default 45 pound. I don't know because I couldn't find it at a quick glance online if I should have done way more or way less. What I did was use the 4mm thick rubber mat to hopefully, because it's thicker, have it apply a little bit more pressure. So let's see what we're working with. So here's where I usually tell. I look at where the image is on the back side. I don't know if you remember, but like through the paper, I'm glad I printed too, maybe this can tell. Through the paper, you can't really see exactly the image, but see here how you can kind of see more of what the pumpkins are. That tells me that the image has transferred some. I don't know if I believe that the whole thing transferred over, but it might have. I'm not willing to find out just yet. I'm going to put this thing back in here. And what I'm going to do is rotate it now. Oh my goodness, hold on. I left my rubber mat in there. Ooh, they're going to be mad at me. It literally says on the thing, do not leave the mat in there. So pull the whole thing out. So I'm going to go again. And I'm trying to think, maybe because the mat is so thick, it didn't let all the heat go through. You'd have to, play around with it. Why don't we do this? Let's try with the thinner one. And see if I can get that image to look any brighter on the outside. If I can see it brighter, like on the outside of the paper, then I know, okay, this thing is good and done. And so that's what I'm going for, especially since I'm going to open it and reveal it here in front of y'all. So, yeah, live TV. Let's go another 65 seconds, and we'll see. And then we'll compare to the colors so that y'all can see that the colors show up way more vibrant than they are just from the printer. Like sublimation printing is always going to look more dull on the paper than it does after it's heated. So not bad. We'll try it. Okay, good. I'm glad you can see. But these make cute gifts, y'all. If you have, say you have a sublimation printer and you haven't done anything with it, this would be worth it, I think, to crank out, you know, a dozen, half a dozen gifts real quick for the holidays anytime you have an event or something, because nowadays we have all these free programs like Canva where you can design your own thing. You know, for my father-in-law, I've done a Tumbler for him where all his different schools that he graduated from, different logos, schools he worked at, all that stuff, and I could put them all on one. You know, it doesn't have to be like a purchase one from somewhere. I'm just making one as a gift, so you can grab different images, put them on there, and really give a special, you know, customized tumbler. I mean, who doesn't want a water bottle? I feel like that's something everybody can use, no matter the age, no matter where they live, all that. Let me make sure I take my rubber mat out. All right. One thing I will say is that I have no smell from this machine, which is good. I've had a few different auto heat presses before. I had to return one. It was terrible. I had another one. I think I got stuck with that one. And then I got the HTVront ones. So this one, I'm telling you, we've taught classes. I saw that on the box of this new one. It said something like 10 times the lifespan or something. And I'm like, I have put this little guy to work. And this is maybe half the cost. So if you're just looking to get started, I also put the link to their first auto heat press here. Ooh, look at me. Warping my mat. Lord have mercy. Okay, remember last week we were talking about wool mats? I always bring a wool mat when we're doing sublimation tumblers and mugs because when we take it out of whatever auto heat press thing we're using, we put it on the wool mat. You know how it absorbs the heat? So it protects, you know, plastic tables wherever I'm teaching. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I might have wrecked that because I put the rubber mat right on it. Anyway, use your wool mat for that. Make sure that you're working on a heat-safe surface. Okay. Now this looks better to me, like I can see more of the pumpkins. Can y'all see that? How you can really see the lines of the pumpkins and everything? I think that's good. This is super hot, so we're gonna wait a minute. Another thing about that ink is that, remember I said the sublimation ink kind of turns to a gas and then it gets trapped in there if there's no air pockets, and so that transfers over. So one of the things that I have found from experience too is that if we immediately with our heat safe gloves start taking off the tape, you can, because it's still so hot, you can kind of dissipate that ink or something. It just like gets fuzzy and kind of grainy, the design. So I prefer to let it cool a little bit here on its own so that I can make sure that all the ink is fully transferred to the tumbler, if that makes sense. So when we do it in class, we kind of just let the people sit theirs on the wool mat, walk away, you know, do something else, and then we'll call them when they're ready and they're a little bit more cool. Tracy says, these hobbies are expensive. Yes, girl, but they're so much fun. She says, I have not tried any cups until I do other stuff to make sure I'm confident. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, once you get it down, just applying it to different things, I think it becomes a little bit more second nature to like, which way does it need to be facing? Which way do I need to tape? How hot do I need to make sure that this is, okay? But keychains are a good one because they're really inexpensive. You can get a pack of like 300, I don't know, super cheap. Like, we've done a lot of those crafts too. It's funny because I cannot even feel the warmth of my hands, so I'm trying to gauge how hot or how cold this thing is through the gloves, and it's not really working. Okay. All right, it's still hot, but I have those tortilla flipping hands, so here we go. I'm going to take off the tape, and if you're not sure and it's your first one and you want to be super duper careful, you could also kind of like peek, maybe find a spot where the design, you can see a little bit of it to see if it even transferred over. And if it hasn't, I would just leave it just like this and stick it right back in. So those are like little tips that I, you know, have done or have practiced since I started learning, just because I don't want to wreck that many more tumblers. After you wreck 3, you're like, okay, I'm sick of this. Hold on. What do I need to do to double check and make sure? I'm going to peek here. And unfortunately for me, there's no design in that corner. So I'm just going to have to keep going down. If it doesn't look fully transferred, I'm going to do it again. Oh, y'all, I need more. I need more heat. I was curious about that 65 seconds. Remember I told you we do 70 seconds on one side and 70 on the other? I'm going to do it again. And then I'll just start peeling the tape off once it's done, because I do not want to wing it. I see the design transferred over, but I could still see more ink on the paper, so I want to get as much of that ink off as possible. So yeah. I wonder if I could even put it in here the way that I do on the other one with the butcher paper instead of these rubber mats. Because I think the rubber mat also, I mean, it holds heat, but I feel like the rubber mat is taking maybe away some of the heat and the time that it takes to get it heated up. Does that make sense? Because when I use butcher paper, it's just a thin sheet of paper, and the heat really transfers right through it. But see, this way I can check without having to take it off and having a halfway kind of, you know, grainy tumbler. And then adding it. And you know what? Let's crank up the pressure. That could be something else. Since I left it at the default, I didn't really do anything with it. So, okay. So this looks like it's pressure. Yeah. So I'm going to crank it up. Let me see how high it goes. I think 155, the thing said. Yeah, 155. Maybe not 150. Why not? Let's try 155. Okay, it's already up to temp, so let's get it in here. Oh, it's not up to temp, 370, that's okay. And so because I increased the pressure, I'm gonna use the thinner one. It's funny because this is still hot. So, I mean, it does hold the heat good. And this is part of it. You gotta experiment. If it's your first time, you know, trying out a new machine, a new heat press, whatever it is, make sure that you experiment, but in a way that you don't have to waste each one that you do, right? All right, let's try it. I shouldn't need that much more because I could see. Remember how I told you that I can see the pumpkins through the paper? All right. Yeah, I agree. Windless Original says the rubber also may be blunting some of the pressure. So we cranked it up to the highest. I don't recommend that if you're trying to do this on glass. That might be a problem. You know those cute little glass cups. You can sublimate on those too. Like make sure that you're getting the little glass cups. They were popular. They're kind of like in the shape of a little jar. Have you seen those? That they're kind of frosted glass or even the clear. I don't know if they're all for sublimation. I haven't done them yet, so I just see them on the internet. But if it's glass, make sure that you do a little bit of research to see some people that maybe have done it before and what they recommend in terms of the pressure. Okay? All right. Okay. 5 more seconds. Let's see what we're working with, and let me not put the rubber mat down. I'm gonna put it on my wool mat. Oh. Have your gloves on because this stuff is hot. I mean, it looks good. I wonder if I can slip it in there without the mat. I'm going to rotate it and give it another quick go. Fingers crossed. Oh, good. Lori says she got the wool mat and the small iron that I linked to last week from my link. I love it. Thank you. I'm glad you do. Yeah, Laura says, this is pretty cool. I've never done anything like this. It's cool. I mean, it's funky stuff, but I love the fact that we can customize, right? If you sell at crafts or if you like to make custom gifts, like if you give somebody something like this with something that's unique to them, that they like, their name. I remember having friends like in college, they love to get custom stuff with their, like if they have rare names, you know, when you go to like Disney World and you're like flipping through the keychain rack. And if you have kind of a non-common name, you're never going to find your name on those things. So if you have friends like that, that their names are never found in the cutesy stuff at those souvenir shops, you can absolutely make them their own unique thing. So that's one of the reasons I did the volleyball ones for the girls too, because they have their own thing with their number, their, you know, like a little memento from volleyball season. All right, this is coming out and that's it. I'm taking this one off, like it or not. Here we go. I mean, I see the pumpkins. Keep them on here. Turn this off. This is the last go. If I have to run it again, y'all just going to have to wait to see my post on Facebook when I'm done with it. But I do like to share these tips so you can see that you don't always have to like waste one. You know, like that first pancake? That's always a wreck. It's like, okay, now the pan is hot enough. Now the next ones are going to look good. This stuff costs money. So you want to make sure that even the first one is going to be good. And one of the tips that's really going to help you with that is what I said about the design, making sure that it's empty here and here. Don't start your first sublimation tumbler with a wraparound full design, okay? It's not that you can't do it. It's just that, you know, better to set yourself up for an easier, successful finish, you know, especially on your first one. Because you don't want to buy 6 tumblers thinking you're going to make 6 for people and maybe test one, and then you end up messing up 3 or 4 and you don't have enough. I'm trying to let this cool a little bit because I don't want that ink to be loosey-goosey on me. Where's my, hold on. Let me grab, haha, my fan. Ta-da! My line dancing fan. It's a good way to do it. All right. Okay. That's all the tape from around and around. All right, so now we're just going to take off the tape. You could just rip the paper off, is usually what I have the kids do. I just like to do it like this because it's just so much more satisfying. If you know, you know. And notice I'm not trying to save it. Whatever we get is whatever we get. Here we go. Yes, now we're talking. Oh, that's just the paper. Okay, look at that. So these little specks of white, you just wipe them off. That's just like sometimes the paper, I wonder if I have any baby wipes here. I don't think I have them in this room. But anyways, that's not like a mess up in the design. That's just the paper. So I'll show you. Just putting some water on my finger and it just rubs right off. Okay? Yeah, look at that. Okay, now we're talking. So you see, hopefully going through this live with me and in person. Okay, let's look back around. This is, again, just paper. So I would just wipe this down with a little damp cloth. So where this went, okay, I do see a little bit of the overlap gap there, okay, because, let me see what the design. Oh, see, I didn't notice this. So the image looks like this is all white in the background, but if I look super closely, it's actually like a light misting almost of brown, but very, very tiny dots. So you can't really tell. You can probably see a little bit on the camera where the design stops and there's a little strip where the overlap was and then the paper again. And that's because of that. But I mean, I don't think you can tell really much, but I thought it was just blank there because I was going to tell you, you know, where you have a gap and it's not edge to edge, it's going to be easier because you get a smoother, you know, an easier finish where the seam joins. And that way you can pretty much ensure 100% of the time you'll get a nice result without worrying about matching stuff up here. But oh my gosh, isn't that a cute harvest kind of fall inspired tumbler? I think it turned out super, super cute. And hopefully all those tips will help you if you're new to sublimation or making sublimation tumblers. The heat press, I mean, the fact that I was able to just troubleshoot the first one straight out of the box and still end up with a pretty perfect result, I think definitely speaks volumes to the quality of their tumblers because anybody can just get one, take it out the box and go. Look at that. How cute! This would make a great little hostess gift if you're going to a Thanksgiving dinner party or something. You bring your dish or a potluck and you can leave a little gift like this on theme for the host or hostess. I think that turned out super cute. What do y'all think? Yay! Yes, I see. Susan says very pretty. Clarice says I love it. All right. So let's see. What else? Okay. Yeah, I think you can do the glass ones in here too, Tracy. She says those glass cups are DTF in the oven, I think. I have seen one of the girls that did a review on this on YouTube. She did some glass ones in here. So definitely look into that if you're thinking about doing some of those glass ones. They wouldn't last here, but I think they're super cute. This tumbler, however, super impressed. Use my tips. If you're new to this, if you want to grab a sublimation auto tumbler heat press, whether you want the original one to get started with or this new one that I got here, the A200, I mean, I think they're both the bomb. I knew they were going to be good because HTVront stuff is really, really high quality. I've been super happy with all their heat presses, every type that I have so far. I think I'm going to be getting another type of heat press from them soon, so I will be definitely sharing that info with y'all as soon as I get it. But I hope that you all learned a little bit more about sublimation crafts. Remember that I have links in the description box below to all of these items. Everything I used today is linked there. You can check out my Amazon storefront and my affiliate links if you need to get your hands on any of this stuff. I'm super happy with my little tumbler, and I hope y'all enjoyed today's show. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see y'all in the next video.